Her baby cried from hunger in the grass. The cowboy took off his coat and changed everything. Mara knelt in the tall, waving grass, her hands trembling as she tried to soothe her crying baby. The alien wind whispered strange, soft sounds through the meadow, but there was no comfort in it. The sky above was a dull orange, and two suns hung low, casting long shadows that stretched across the uneven ground. The air smelled faintly metallic, and Mara's stomach twisted with hunger, not just hers, but her child's. She had tried everything, searching through the few supplies the settlers had brought, but the storm that had hit weeks ago had blocked the supply ship. Now the baby's cries rang loud, desperate, echoing across the lonely plain. Her heart ached. The infant's tiny hands reached out, fingers grasping nothing, and its soft, fragile body shook with hunger. Mara whispered words of comfort, but they were barely audible over the high-pitched wail. She didn't know what to do. She had never faced anything like this on her home planet. This world was alive in ways she didn't understand. Its plants glimmered faintly in the dim light. Its ground shifted underfoot as if it were breathing. Every rustle in the grass made her flinch. Mara felt small, helpless, and scared. She had come here with hope. Her family had joined the new colony to start fresh on this distant planet. Everyone had imagined wide open spaces, fertile land, and a chance to build a life away from the crowded cities of old Earth. But the reality had been harsh. The alien storms were violent and unpredictable, crops failed, and the colony's systems sometimes faltered in ways that left them struggling for days. Mara had always tried to keep her optimism alive, but now, seeing her child suffering, hope felt fragile and far away. She searched the grass again, hoping to find something edible. The plants were strange, glowing slightly, with colors that shifted when the light caught them. Mara knew that some were poisonous. She had read about them in the colony's plant guide. Others might be safe, but she didn't know which. Every second her baby cried felt like an hour. The soft whimpers were punctuated by piercing screams that made Mara's chest tighten. She had to do something, anything. "Please," she whispered, almost to herself. "Please help me." The wind carried her words across the meadow, but there was no one to hear. Or at least she thought so. A shadow appeared on the horizon, moving steadily across the tall grass. Mara squinted, unsure at first. It looked like a person or maybe a statue, but it moved with purpose, striding across the uneven ground. Her heart leapt. Could it be someone from the colony? Maybe they had brought supplies, maybe help was finally coming. She waved her hands, shouting, but the figure didn't slow down. It was too far to make out any details. As the figure came closer, Mara noticed its unusual shape. The person wore a long coat that swayed as they walked. On their back was a large pack, and their steps were confident, almost fearless across the wild terrain. Even from a distance, Mara felt a sense of calm, strange and sudden, as if the person's presence promised safety. The figure dismounted something small and mechanical, a strange robotic creature that looked like a horse but with glowing joints and metal limbs. Mara's eyes widened. She had heard of robotic mounts used in exploration missions, but seeing one in person was awe-inspiring. The figure's calmness contrasted sharply with her panic. Every step he took seemed measured, deliberate, as if he understood this world in a way she didn't. When he finally reached her, he didn't rush. He didn't panic at the baby's cries. He knelt slowly, carefully, observing the infant. His eyes were sharp but gentle, scanning the surroundings, measuring threats without fear. Mara's heart was pounding, but the stranger's presence felt like a shield, a wall between them and the dangerous unknown. "Is the baby hurt?" he asked, his voice low but steady. It wasn't the rough, hurried voice of someone in panic. It carried a calm authority that Mara didn't realize she craved. "No, just hungry," Mara stammered, tears streaking her cheeks. "I don't have enough, the supplies," her voice broke. She couldn't finish. The man nodded, understanding without judgment. "Let me help," he said simply. He reached for his coat, a heavy, dust-covered garment that looked ordinary at first. Mara watched as he removed it, holding it out carefully. He laid it over the baby, creating a small, warm nest. She expected the child to fuss more, but instead, the cries softened, the baby's tiny hands gripping the fabric. The coat seemed to mold perfectly around the infant, shielding it from the cold, filtering the sharp alien wind, even giving a faint glow that made Mara think it was alive. "What, what is this?" she asked, astonished. "Old human tricks," he replied with a faint smile. "We've been surviving a long time." Mara stared, realizing the truth in his words. They had sent humans across the stars because humans adapted, learned, and survived in impossible circumstances. This man, a stranger, had shown it in a single gesture. His coat, his calm, his understanding, it was simple, but it worked. Her baby's cries subsided into quiet whimpers and then into soft snores. Mara felt a wave of relief crash over her. For a moment she just watched him. Who are you?" she asked. "Just someone who travels," he said. "I see a problem, I fix it." He didn't explain more. Mara didn't need him to. In a place where the alien world itself seemed to resist life, human ingenuity was the most powerful tool. The wind shifted, carrying unfamiliar scents through the meadow. Mara looked around, suddenly aware of the dangers hidden in the tall grass. Strange shapes moved just beyond sight and her mind raced. But the cowboy, the man, remained calm. He stood, scanning the horizon, hands resting lightly on his pack and the straps of the robotic horse. Mara realized he wasn't just strong. He understood this planet in ways that made survival seem almost effortless. How can you know what to do?" she asked, voice trembling with awe. "Humans don't just survive because of strength or weapons," he said, finally looking at her. "We survive because we think. We see what's around us, we learn, and we act. This planet, it's tricky. But we're trickier." Mara nodded slowly, beginning to understand. He wasn't boasting. He was showing her what humanity could do. Even in a place where everything seemed alien, fragile, and dangerous, humans could find a way. Her baby slept soundly, wrapped in the strange, glowing coat, and Mara felt the tight knot of fear in her chest loosen. The man adjusted the coat around the baby one last time and then looked at Mara. "You'll be okay," he said. "I'll make sure." Before Mara could ask more, he turned to his robotic horse and with a few swift movements climbed on. The mechanical creature whirred softly as it adjusted to his weight. Mara felt a pang of sadness. He had saved them, but he would leave as suddenly as he had come. "Wait," she called, but he only waved and set off across the grass, moving with impossible speed and balance. Mara watched, amazed, as he disappeared into the horizon. The sound of the mechanical hooves faded, leaving her alone with the baby, but not truly alone. The calm, the hope, the proof of human ingenuity lingered like a warm light. Mara sank to her knees beside the sleeping child, tears streaming freely. The meadow was still dangerous, the world still alien, but now she understood something she hadn't before. Humans were not just fragile beings in a vast universe. Humans adapted. Humans solved problems. And humans could survive anything. As the suns dipped lower, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Mara whispered to her baby, "We'll be okay. Someone showed us how." The baby stirred slightly, eyes blinking open, and for the first time in days, Mara felt a spark of hope that went deeper than hunger, fear, or desperation. A spark that would grow in time into courage. She looked toward the horizon, where the cowboy had vanished, and smiled faintly. One human had reminded her of what all humans could be. And somehow she knew this was only the beginning. The suns had dropped lower, bathing the meadow in a deep orange light that stretched the shadows of the tall, waving grass. Mara sat beside her baby, who slept wrapped in the cowboy's coat. Its soft glow flickered like a tiny star, a reminder that survival was possible even in this alien world. Yet Mara could not rest. Her mind raced with questions. Who was this cowboy? How had he known exactly what her baby needed? The wind whispered through the meadow again, carrying scents that Mara didn't recognize. She shivered. Though the coat was warm, she felt exposed. The alien grass rustled around her, and she imagined all sorts of creatures lurking just beyond her vision. She had read about them in the colony's survival guides, predators that could move faster than a human eye could follow, plants that could poison with a single touch. But seeing them in real life was far more frightening. Mara shifted her baby in her arms, careful not to disturb the comfort the coat provided. She had to understand the coat. Its fibers were strange, soft yet durable, shimmering faintly with a kind of light she couldn't explain. When the baby pressed against it, the coat seemed to respond, adjusting its warmth and even giving a gentle pulse of air. It was as if the coat had a mind of its own, but she knew it was human-made. Somehow, humans had built this technology to work so seamlessly, even here, on a planet no one fully understood. As Mara studied the coat, she heard soft steps approaching. Her heart leapt. She glanced toward the horizon and saw the cowboy returning. He moved slowly this time, as if he had been watching from afar, waiting for the right moment. His robotic horse trailed behind him, its joints whirring softly. Mara felt a mixture of relief and curiosity. How could one human survive alone in such a strange, hostile place? "Did it help?" the cowboy asked, kneeling beside her. His voice was calm, measured, but there was a hint of curiosity, as if he was observing more than just the baby. "Yes," Mara whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "It's incredible. I've never seen anything like it." How does it work?" The cowboy smiled faintly. "Old human tricks mixed with a bit of science. It senses warmth, pressure, even air quality, adjusts itself for whoever wears it. That way you survive longer. That's the point, isn't it? Surviving." Mara nodded slowly. She had been so focused on fear and hunger that she hadn't thought about survival in such precise terms. The coat was more than clothing. It was a lifeline, a symbol that humans could solve problems no matter the odds. I don't know how to thank you," she said. "No need," he replied. "Humans help each other, that's all." The moment of calm didn't last long. From the edge of the meadow, Mara saw movement, small shapes sliding through the grass, nearly invisible in the dim light. Her heart raced. She recognized the signs from the colony guides, predators, fast, intelligent, curious about anything new in their territory. She had never seen them in person, and the thought of facing them alone terrified her. The cowboy's eyes followed hers. "I see them too," he said quietly. "Stay close to the baby. Do not panic. Everything will be fine." He stood and began to move toward the grass, scanning carefully. Mara watched as he set small devices along the ground, tiny, simple traps made of rocks, sticks, and metal. They were almost invisible, but they created barriers and warnings for the predators. He didn't need weapons. He didn't need guns or explosives. He used what was around him, his knowledge and his instincts. Mara realized that this was human brilliance at work, thinking, adapting, and surviving with what you had, no matter how strange or dangerous the world was. The creatures approached cautiously, curious about the scent of the baby. They moved in low, silent sweeps, their eyes reflecting the faint glow of the suns. Mara held her breath, clutching her child. She could see them now, alien forms with long limbs, sharp claws, and strange, shimmering skin that changed color depending on the light. They were unlike anything she had ever seen. Yet the cowboy moved among them calmly, setting his traps and barriers without fear. Then, something remarkable happened. One of the predators stepped too close to a device the cowboy had placed. A low hum sounded and the creature froze as if startled. It glanced at its companions, then slowly retreated. Mara could hardly believe her eyes. Simple, clever human thinking had saved them. It wasn't brute force or technology. It was ingenuity, understanding, and courage. The cowboy returned to her side, brushing dust off his coat. "They're cautious now. They'll keep their distance for a while." He glanced at the baby, Keep them warm, keep them calm, that's enough for now. Mara looked at him in wonder. You just saved our lives. And all with simple tools and your coat. He shrugged lightly. Humans adapt, that's what we do. No one else can do it like we can. Mara felt a deep sense of awe. The cowboy wasn't just strong, he understood life, danger, and survival in a way that seemed almost magical. Yet it wasn't magic, it was human. Human courage, human creativity. And somehow it gave her hope she hadn't felt in days. The baby stirred in the coat, blinking open tiny eyes. Mara smiled and whispered, "We're safe now." She felt the warmth of the coat against her hands and knew that her child would survive. The cowboy's expression softened slightly. This coat, it will keep adapting. It can even provide a small amount of nutrition if needed. Not a full meal, but enough to get through until food arrives. Humans designed it that way. You don't just survive, you endure. Mara's eyes filled with tears. She had never thought about survival in such terms. To endure, to last, to thrive even when the odds were against you. That was human strength, and the cowboy had reminded her of it in one quiet act. Night fell over the meadow, and the alien world grew colder and darker. Strange sounds echoed from the hills. The wind carried eerie whistles, and shadows moved in ways Mara could not predict. Yet with the cowboy nearby and the baby safe, she felt a spark of hope. The cowboy adjusted the coat one last time, making sure the baby was completely covered and insulated. "Rest," he said. "Tomorrow we'll make sure you have food. And I'll show you how to keep these creatures at bay." Mara nodded, her body trembling from exhaustion. She had been running on fear and adrenaline for days, but now she could finally sit, breathe, and let herself feel the relief of safety. The cowboy's calm presence, his knowledge, and his human ingenuity had made the impossible seem possible. As she watched him scout the edges of the meadow one last time, she realized something important. Humans were not just fragile creatures drifting in the universe. Humans adapted, humans thought, humans solved problems no one else could. And when humans worked together, or when one human helped another, the universe itself seemed a little less threatening. The night passed slowly, but Mara didn't sleep. She stayed awake beside her baby, watching the stars and the faint glow of the coat. Every rustle in the grass made her alert, but she no longer felt paralyzed by fear. She had learned something from the cowboy. Courage, ingenuity, and calm could protect life in ways that seemed impossible. By morning, the meadow was quiet. The alien predators had not returned, cautious after encountering the cowboy's simple but clever traps. The suns rose higher, casting warm light across the grass. Mara held her baby, smiling faintly. Today she thought they would survive, and tomorrow they might even thrive. She looked toward the horizon, hoping to see the cowboy again, but he had already disappeared into the grass, leaving only footprints and the hum of his robotic horse fading into the distance. Yet Mara felt no fear. She carried the lesson he had left behind, that humans could endure, adapt, and survive even on a world that seemed determined to fight against them. Mara whispered to her child, "We will be okay. Humans always find a way." The baby cooed softly in reply, wrapped in the glowing coat that had saved its life. And for the first time in many days, Mara believed it. She packed a few supplies, checked the baby's comfort, and began the slow walk back to the colony. Every step felt lighter. The cowboy had reminded her of something essential. Survival wasn't just about strength or weapons. It was about human creativity, courage, and the will to endure. And Mara would carry that lesson with her, wherever this alien world tried to take her. The suns rose over the horizon, painting the alien meadow in shades of gold and soft orange. Mara adjusted the baby in the glowing coat, feeling its warmth and the small pulse of air it provided. The meadow seemed calm, but Mara knew better. The quiet here was deceptive. She had learned in the last day that the alien world was full of surprises, many of them dangerous. The cowboy had left before sunrise, vanishing into the tall, waving grass as if he had never been there. Yet his presence lingered in Mara's mind, a quiet reminder that human ingenuity could survive even here. She had spent the night thinking about his words. Humans adapt, humans endure, humans solve problems. It was not brute strength or weapons that made humans special. It was their ability to think, to act, to improvise when everything else seemed impossible. But Mara also knew the dangers had not gone away. She had seen the predators the night before, their glowing eyes watching from the edges of the meadow. They were cautious now, but hunger drove all creatures, and the baby's cries had already drawn attention once. Mara couldn't afford to underestimate the world around her. She stood, carrying the baby carefully, and began walking toward a small grove of alien trees near the colony. The leaves of the trees were thick and waxy, shimmering faintly in the sunlight. Mara remembered the guides from the colony. These trees could provide some nourishment if prepared correctly, but only with knowledge and caution. One wrong move, one bite of the wrong leaf, and the results could be deadly. Her mind raced as she moved. Every rustle in the grass made her heart pound. Every shadow could hide danger. And yet she felt a strange confidence as she walked. She remembered the cowboy's calm, the way he had faced the unknown without panic. She tried to imitate that calm, telling herself that fear could cloud judgment. Suddenly, movement in the grass caught her eye. Small shapes were moving quickly, sliding between the tall stalks. Her breath caught in her throat. The predators. They were circling, watching her, calculating. Their bodies shimmered in the sunlight, skin changing color to blend with the grass. They were clever, faster than anything Mara had ever seen. She froze, unsure what to do. Her instincts screamed to run, but she knew that would make her a target. She had no weapons, only her wits and the lessons she had learned from the cowboy. Slowly, carefully, she lowered herself into the grass, keeping the baby close and hidden beneath the glowing coat. The creatures paused, tilting their heads, sensing life but unsure exactly where it came from. Mara remembered something the cowboy had said. Humans think in ways others cannot predict. She needed to use that. She scanned the ground and noticed small stones, sticks, and broken branches. A plan formed in her mind. Carefully, she placed the stones in a line, creating a pattern that would make the predators hesitant. Humans had learned long ago to use simple tricks to confuse and control animals. Mara hoped it would work. The creatures approached cautiously. One stepped on the stones and a sharp clink echoed. It froze, then backed away. Another tried a different path but stopped when it noticed the pattern of sticks. Mara held her breath. She couldn't believe it, but her small, improvised defenses worked. The creatures hissed softly, confused and frustrated before retreating slightly. Mara exhaled slowly. Her heart was still racing, but she had survived. The baby stirred, sensing her relief, and cooed softly. The coat's glow flickered gently, providing comfort and warmth. Mara realized that she was beginning to understand something important. The alien world was dangerous, yes, but it was not unbeatable. With careful thought, observation, and human ingenuity, even a mother alone could protect her child. She continued toward the grove, moving carefully and keeping low. The predators did not follow immediately, but she knew they would not give up easily. Hunger made them persistent, and intelligence made them unpredictable. Mara's mind raced with possibilities. She remembered the cowboy's traps from the previous night. They had worked because he understood the creature's behavior, predicting how they would react. Mara could not replicate his skill exactly, but she could try. As she approached the grove, Mara noticed the ground changing. The grass became shorter, the soil firmer, and the air slightly cooler. The trees here were taller, their leaves providing a small shield from the sun's harsh light. Mara felt a small measure of relief. This grove could provide temporary safety, a place to rest and perhaps forage for food. She set the baby down carefully in the coat, keeping it partially covered. Then she began examining the trees and plants. Some had thick, fibrous leaves, Others bore small, glowing fruits. Mara knew some fruits were safe, but others could be poisonous. She recalled the guides: taste small amounts, watch for reactions, and always prepare carefully. While she worked, the predators returned. They had not given up. Their movements were careful, almost intelligent, circling the grove and watching her from a distance. Mara's heart pounded again, but she stayed calm. She had survived once. She could survive again. She picked a small fruit and tasted it carefully. Sweet, edible. She smiled faintly, relief mixing with determination. She picked a few more, keeping them close, and then returned to the baby. Feeding the infant slowly, she realized that survival was not just about avoiding danger. It was about understanding the world and using knowledge to sustain life. Hours passed. The suns moved higher and the temperature rose. Mara rested in the grove, keeping an eye on the surrounding grass. The predators were persistent, but they kept their distance, wary of her presence and the strange glow of the coat. Mara marveled at how one simple tool, a coat, had changed everything. It protected her baby, provided warmth, and even drew the creature's caution. By late afternoon, Mara had found a small stream running through the grove. The water was clear and slightly cool. She washed her baby and herself, feeling refreshed despite the exhaustion of the day. She realized how much she had learned already: patience, observation, careful action, and improvisation. Human survival was more than strength. It was intelligence, creativity, and adaptability. As night approached, the predators grew bolder again. Mara knew she could not stay in the grove forever. She needed a plan to protect herself and the baby long term. She thought of the cowboy, wondering where he had gone and how he would approach this challenge. He had shown her what was possible, but now it was her turn. She began crafting small barriers around the grove using sticks, stones, and fallen branches. She placed them in patterns designed to confuse the predators, just as she had the day before. She also set small alarms using stones and hollowed branches, creating noise if the creatures approached too closely. It was a primitive system, but it worked with the logic the cowboy had taught her: anticipate, adapt, and use the environment. As the sun set, the predators watched silently from the grass, their glowing eyes tracking every movement. Mara stayed close to the baby, ready for the night ahead. She whispered softly, "We can do this. We will survive." The coat's faint glow pulsed gently in response, comforting both mother and child. The night was long. Strange sounds echoed across the meadow: rustling grass, distant calls, and the occasional thump of large creatures moving unseen. Mara's heart raced, but she remembered the lessons of the cowboy. Humans endure by thinking, by using ingenuity, and by staying calm under pressure. She monitored the barriers, adjusting them quietly whenever necessary, ensuring the baby's safety. By the time dawn arrived, Mara felt a quiet pride. She had faced the predators, navigated the alien landscape, and kept her baby safe using only her wits, courage, and the glowing coat. The meadow was calm again, at least for now. Mara knew the world around her was still dangerous, but she also knew that humans could adapt and survive where others could not. She looked toward the horizon, imagining the cowboy riding through the tall grass, and smiled faintly. He had taught her something invaluable: humans are not fragile. Humans endure. Humans think, adapt, and overcome. Mara realized that this lesson would carry her through any challenge the alien world could throw at her. As she gathered supplies and prepared to move back toward the colony, Mara whispered to her baby, "We are stronger than you know. And we will survive." The baby stirred, pressing against the glowing coat, and for the first time, Mara truly believed it. The suns were high over the alien meadow, casting long, golden beams that reflected off the strange, shimmering leaves of the grove. Mara sat quietly beside her baby, who slept peacefully wrapped in the glowing coat. The events of the past days weighed heavily on her, but she felt a quiet confidence. She had survived, thanks to her own quick thinking, human ingenuity, and the guidance of the cowboy who had come into her life like a shadow from the stars. Yet the meadow was never truly safe. Mara knew that alien predators still lurked in the grass beyond the grove. They had watched her every move, learning, adapting. Hunger made them bold, and curiosity made them unpredictable. She had learned how to anticipate some of their behaviors, how to create barriers and simple alarms, but she also knew that humans could not endure entirely alone. Suddenly, the faint hum of machinery echoed through the meadow. Mara froze. The sound was different from the wind, the creatures, or the soft rustle of the robotic horse. It was deliberate, mechanical, human. A group of settlers appeared on the horizon, moving cautiously across the grass. They carried supplies and tools, their expressions a mix of relief and fear. Mara's heart leapt. They had come for her, following some signal or instinct she did not know. But seeing them brought a new wave of hope. She waved frantically, shouting, "Over here, please help us." The settlers approached quickly, guided by her cries. When they reached the grove, they stopped, astonished. Mara's baby slept calmly in the glowing coat, and the small barriers and alarms she had crafted kept the predators at bay. One settler, a man named Jaron, knelt beside the baby, examining the coat. This is incredible," he whispered. "Where did you get this?" Mara shook her head. "A cowboy, he came last night, he saved us, he left the coat, and now we have to survive." Jaron's eyes widened in awe. Humans like him are rare, resourceful, brave, clever. That's why we survive where others might fail." Mara realized the truth in his words. The cowboy had shown them the spark of humanity, the ingenuity and courage that allowed humans to thrive in impossible situations. And now, with the settlers here, that spark could ignite a flame. The alien predators had been watching silently, their glowing eyes tracking every movement. But when they saw the settlers, they hesitated. Something about human unpredictability, the way Mara and her group moved, the strange glowing coat, the carefully placed alarms made them cautious. They did not attack. They waited, uncertain. Mara felt a surge of pride. Human thinking had saved them again. Simple tools, clever planning, and the courage to act in the face of fear had turned the tide. She watched as Jaron and the other settlers reinforced the barriers, creating traps and obstacles that the predators could not understand. Simple sticks, stones, and metal wires formed an invisible maze, keeping the alien creatures at bay. "This is amazing," Mara said softly. We actually did it." Jaron smiled, shaking his head. "It's not just us, it's human thinking. We adapt, we observe, we learn. That's why humans endure, that's why we thrive." Mara's thoughts turned to the cowboy. He had shown them what was possible. Now they had to carry it forward. She felt a quiet determination settle in her chest. Humans did not wait for help. Humans created solutions. Humans survived. And now they were teaching others to do the same. As the settlers settled into the grove, Mara shared what she had learned. How to make simple barriers, how to use stones and sticks to confuse predators, and how the coat worked to protect the baby. The settlers listened intently, amazed at the resourcefulness that one woman, guided by a stranger, had shown. They realized that survival was not just about technology or weapons. It was about thinking, adapting, and acting with courage and creativity. By afternoon, the group had fortified the grove into a safe perimeter. The alien predators had not attacked, their curiosity tempered by confusion and caution. Mara watched them from a distance, noting their behavior. They were intelligent, yes, but not as clever as humans. Humans could think, improvise, and outsmart dangers in ways the creatures could not predict. That was the essence of humanity, the spark that the cowboy had reminded her of, and now the settlers were beginning to feel it too. Mara felt a quiet pride as she fed her baby again, using the resources they had gathered. The coat continued to glow gently, providing warmth and safety. The settlers began preparing food, learning from her guidance. Together, they turned the grove into a small, safe haven, a testament to human courage and ingenuity. As the suns dipped lower, Mara noticed movement at the edge of the meadow. One of the predators had grown bolder, stepping closer to the fortified area. Mara's heart raced. She had learned to anticipate such actions, but now it was a test. Could humans defend themselves not with weapons but with thought? The settlers turned toward her, waiting for guidance. Mara took a deep breath and whispered, "Watch and learn. We do not fight them with strength. We fight them with our minds." She instructed the settlers to make noise and create shifting lights with reflective pieces of metal and glowing plants. The predators hesitated, confused by the unexpected signals. Then Mara guided them to shift positions, move strategically, and create the illusion of greater numbers. The creatures, intelligent but cautious, backed away slowly, unsure how to proceed. Jaren watched in awe. "It's brilliant. We didn't hit them once, didn't fire a single shot, and they retreated." Mara smiled faintly. "Humans survive by thinking, by observing, by adapting. That is our power." Night fell over the meadow, and the aliens retreated further into the shadows. The settlers gathered around a small fire, sharing stories and learning from Mara's experience. She realized something important. The spark the cowboy had ignited was now spreading. Humans were not alone in their ingenuity. When they shared knowledge and courage, survival became not just possible but inevitable. The baby stirred in the glowing coat, and Mara held it close, feeling the warmth and safety it provided. She looked at the settlers, their eyes wide with awe and gratitude. This moment, she knew, was more than survival. It was a lesson in humanity, a demonstration that humans could endure and overcome challenges that seemed impossible. Jaren spoke softly, almost to himself. "We thought we needed technology, weapons, everything. But it's our mind, our courage, and our heart that matter most." Mara nodded. She had seen it firsthand. The cowboy's calm, clever actions had saved her baby and inspired her to act. Now she could pass that knowledge on. Humans, she realized, did not need to rely on luck or alien help. They had their greatest tool within themselves, the ability to think, adapt, and act with courage. As the night deepened, the settlers fell asleep in the fortified grove, trusting Mara's guidance and the lessons they had learned. Mara stayed awake a little longer, watching the stars and thinking about the cowboy. He had come like a shadow from the stars, teaching her what it meant to survive. Now she understood. Survival was not about waiting for help, but about creating solutions, adapting, and thinking faster than the dangers that surrounded you. By dawn, Mara felt a renewed sense of purpose. The predators had not returned, wary of the humans and their clever defenses. The settlers were awake, learning, and ready to follow her guidance. She felt a sense of pride swelling within her. Humanity had shown its spark, and it was spreading. She whispered to her baby, "We will thrive, little one. Humans always find a way." The baby cooed softly, pressing against the coat's gentle glow. Mara smiled faintly. This was only the beginning. Humans had survived the unknown. They had adapted, learned, and outsmarted dangers that no other species could handle. And Mara knew, deep in her heart, that this spark, the courage, ingenuity, and intelligence of humanity, would guide them through every challenge the alien world could throw at them. As she looked toward the horizon, Mara imagined the cowboy riding again, unseen but always guiding. The spark he had ignited was now alive in her and the settlers. Together, they would carry it forward. Humans were not fragile. Humans endured. Humans thrived. And in this alien world, they would continue to shine like stars in the night sky. The grove was quiet now, safe for the first time in days. The baby slept peacefully. The settlers prepared for the journey ahead, and Mara knew that humanity's strength was not in weapons or luck. It was in the mind, the heart, and the courage to act. And so, in the alien meadow under the strange twin suns, humans had shown their power once more. They adapted, they survived, and they began to thrive. The cowboy had sparked the flame, and now it burned brightly, a testament to the enduring spirit of humanity. The meadow lay quiet under the twin suns, their golden light spilling across the shimmering grass. Mara held her baby close, feeling the warmth of the glowing coat and the steady pulse that had kept her child safe for days. Around her, the settlers worked together, reinforcing the grove and preparing for the journey back to the main colony. The alien predators had not returned, deterred by the clever barriers, alarms, and the unpredictability of human actions. The meadow, once a place of fear and uncertainty, now felt like a small sanctuary. Mara's mind wandered to the cowboy. He had appeared like a shadow, a quiet guardian in a world full of dangers. He had left behind more than a coat. He had left a lesson, a spark of humanity that now burned in Mara and the settlers alike. She could still see his calm movements, the way he had analyzed the threats, adapted, and acted with intelligence. That spark had guided her through hunger, fear, and danger. "Mama," the baby cooed softly, stretching tiny arms. Mara smiled down, brushing a lock of hair from the baby's forehead. "Yes, little one, we're safe, we survived, and we will thrive." The words felt heavy with meaning. It was more than survival. It was a promise of life, of resilience, of the human spirit enduring against impossible odds. The settlers gathered around Mara, their faces showing admiration and gratitude. Jaron, the man who had spoken of human ingenuity before, looked at her and said, "You've taught us more in these few days than we've learned in months. You've shown us what it means to survive here, not just to live, but to endure. That's human strength." Mara nodded, feeling a quiet pride. She had never imagined she could make such a difference. Yet it was simple. She had observed, adapted, and acted with courage, lessons the cowboy had passed on in silence, and now she was passing them forward. Humanity survived not because of power, but because of creativity, empathy, and the will to overcome. The settlers began preparing to return to the colony. Mara carefully packed the glowing coat, ensuring her baby remained safe and warm. She looked back at the grove, noting the barriers and alarms they had set. It was a testament to human ingenuity and foresight. They had transformed a dangerous alien meadow into a place of safety using nothing but observation, intelligence, and clever thinking. As they started the slow walk toward the colony, Mara noticed subtle movements in the distance. The alien predators were observing from the shadows, cautious and hesitant. Mara smiled faintly. The humans were teaching them in a way that this world was not theirs alone. Humans had adapted, survived, and now asserted their presence through cleverness and courage. Even the predators had learned to respect that. "Keep your eyes open," Mara instructed the settlers. "They are intelligent, but so are we. We can survive anything if we think, plan, and act together." Her voice carried authority, calm yet confident. The settlers nodded, understanding the truth in her words. Humans did not need to fear the unknown. They needed to understand it, learn from it, and respond with creativity. That was the ultimate weapon in a world of uncertainty. The journey back to the colony was long and tense. Mara carried the baby in the coat, while the settlers moved cautiously, maintaining the perimeter and keeping watch. Small challenges arose: a shifting patch of quicksand-like soil, strange glowing plants that moved unexpectedly, but Mara guided the group through each obstacle. Every decision, every careful step, showcased human adaptability and intelligence. As night fell, they made camp near a small hill overlooking the colony. Mara set the baby down gently, the glowing coat illuminating the ground like a tiny beacon. The settlers built a simple shelter, using branches, stones, and reflective materials to protect against nocturnal predators. Mara reflected on how far they had come. Days ago, she had been alone, desperate, unsure if her baby would survive. Now humans had turned fear into strategy, weakness into ingenuity, and danger into opportunity. The baby stirred, reaching out tiny hands. Mara whispered, "You are safe. Humans endure. We always find a way." The settlers watched quietly, realizing that these words were not just for the child, they applied to all of them. Humanity had survived countless challenges across time and space, not because of sheer strength, but because of intelligence, courage, and the willingness to act in the face of fear. At dawn, the colony came into view. Its structures rose above the alien grass like small islands of safety in a vast, unfamiliar world. Mara felt a wave of relief and pride. They had survived the meadow, the predators, and the harsh alien environment. And now they could return home, bringing with them knowledge, courage, and a renewed sense of what humans were capable of. As they approached the colony, settlers began sharing stories of the cowboy. No one had seen him arrive or leave, but everyone remembered his calm, clever actions and the life-saving coat. He had inspired Mara and through her, the settlers as well. The legend of the cowboy spread quickly, a story of human ingenuity and courage that would inspire others for generations. Mara paused at the edge of the colony, looking back at the meadow. She imagined the cowboy riding through the tall grass, unseen but always present, guiding humans with quiet wisdom. His lesson was clear. Survival was not just about technology, weapons, or numbers. It was about thinking, adapting, and having the courage to act. Humans had that power within themselves, and they had used it to save a life, protect a child, and outsmart predators that no one else could face. The colony welcomed them with relief and celebration. Mara's story of survival and the cowboy's ingenuity spread through the settlers like wildfire. People listened in awe as she recounted the careful strategies, the clever barriers, and the glowing coat that had kept the baby safe. They marveled at human intelligence, courage, and adaptability, the very qualities that defined humanity and allowed them to thrive in a universe full of unknown dangers. The baby, still wrapped in the coat, slept peacefully in Mara's arms. She looked down at the tiny face, feeling an overwhelming sense of responsibility and pride. This child and all children of humanity would grow knowing that humans were not fragile. Humans endured. Humans thrived. And humans could shape the universe with intelligence, courage, and empathy. Mara knew that the cowboy's legacy was more than a story, it was a way of living. Humans did not wait for salvation. They created it. They adapted. They faced the impossible and overcame it. That spark, the spark of ingenuity, courage, and human spirit, was now alive in her, in the settlers, and in the generations to come. In the days that followed, Mara worked with the settlers to fortify the colony's perimeter, using lessons learned in the meadow. She taught them how to anticipate alien behaviors, improvise defenses, and use the environment to their advantage. The glowing coat became a symbol of human ingenuity, a reminder that even in the most dangerous alien environments, humans could survive and thrive. The meadow, once a place of fear and danger, became a training ground for settlers. They learned to move with caution, observe the world around them, and use simple, clever strategies to protect themselves and their loved ones. Mara's baby grew alongside this understanding, the glowing coat a constant companion and a testament to the enduring spirit of humanity. Word of their survival spread beyond the colony. Other settlements learned from Mara's experience, adopting similar strategies to protect themselves from the alien environment. Humans across the planet began to understand a fundamental truth. Technology and weapons were tools, but intelligence, courage, and creativity were the true strengths of humanity. One evening, Mara sat on a small hill overlooking the colony, the baby in her lap. The suns dipped low, casting long shadows across the meadow. She imagined the cowboy riding in the distance, perhaps watching, perhaps guiding unseen. She smiled faintly. His presence had sparked a lesson, and that lesson had grown into a legacy. Humans could survive. Humans could adapt. Humans could thrive. The baby stirred, cooing softly. Mara whispered, "You will grow up knowing what humans are capable of. We endure, we create, we survive. And we thrive." The coat glowed gently, a small heartbeat of light and warmth, echoing the human spirit that had carried them through so much. The meadow, once a place of despair, now symbolized hope. Mara knew that humans would continue to face challenges, dangers, and unknown worlds. But they would face them with intelligence, courage, and creativity, the very qualities that had allowed one woman and her child to survive, and that would allow all of humanity to endure in the stars. And somewhere, riding through the tall, alien grass, the cowboy's figure vanished into the horizon. He had sparked a flame, a human spark that now burned brightly in Mara, the settlers, and the generations to come. The meadow was safe, the colony secure, and humanity's legacy on this distant world had begun. Mara looked at her baby, the glowing coat cradled gently in her arms. She whispered once more, softly, firmly, with all the conviction of a human who had faced the impossible and survived. "We are humans. We endure, we thrive, and nothing, no storm, no predator, no alien world can stop us." The sun set, casting the meadow in soft twilight. The baby yawned, stretching tiny arms, the coat pulsing faintly with warmth. Mara smiled, feeling hope and strength welling in her heart. Humans had faced the unknown and survived. Humans had adapted. Humans had triumphed. And the story of the cowboy, the coat, and a mother's courage would echo across the stars, a reminder of the power of the human spirit.